This video involves a guy that I'm going to call Shorty. I have to say this over and over again, or else maybe when I get heated later on, I'm going to call him by his real name. So Shorty. All right. So obviously it involves a person, but to tell the title of the story, we first have to go back a year. It was my first Thursday class, believe it or not. And I was new to this school. This was the second school I trained at in the DC area. And I think one of the issues, as I'm reflecting as an adult, is that the coach, she was really happy I was there and she pumped me up a little too much. Basically, she knew my coaches in China because she's from the same province. So she knew the training was legit. So she told the whole class, she's like, there's going to be a guy. You know, he's from one of our rival schools, but before he was at one of our rival schools, he trained with people that I knew in China. So she pumped me up. And I'm just explaining this because I don't know if this biased this guy we're going to call Shorty. But the first Thursday class, it was a night class. I have to emphasize because this is important for later. Not an advanced class, not anything. It was just an all-level weapons class. That's the only thing it was. All-level weapons class, okay? To make that clear. So Shorty initially, he introduces himself to me. He seems very nice. He's really curious about me. We're talking. I feel like he's a cool dude, right? And then it turns out he's going to coach the class. And I have to give a lot of credit to Coach Stefan. He's going to come to play later in this story too. So Shorty is the main coach, and Coach Stefan is training and also helping out. And this is one of those Thursdays where there's not a lot of people. From my memory, it was like 4 people. Coach Shorty was coaching, so he wasn't really training. And then Coach Stefan was half training, half helping out. And then there were like 3 other people besides me. It wasn't a lot of people. And again, it's all level. So I'm new to this school, so I don't know the forms. So I'm learning. I'm catching up. I'm learning. And Coach Shorty, for some reason, just like gets really annoyed at that and like keeps trying to shoo me off. And this is why I got to give Coach Stefan credit because he keeps standing up for me. He's like, dude, Jerry's new. It's just let him learn. Like, there's not a lot of people here. You know, the credit goes to where credit's due. The second Kung Fu school I trained at is a very big gym, much bigger than the first one. The first one was just, you could tell, is mostly just to make money. The second one, you could tell she cared about Wushu. Mostly. I mean, she taught Tai Chi and other stuff too, but she cared about Wushu, so the space was big. So it was way big. Even if Jerry just went to the side and just learned slowly, would have not interfered with everyone or anyone. So Coach Stefan was standing up for me, and like Coach Shorty was just getting annoyed all the time. I don't know what's going on. And then eventually it got to the point where he just like was like, okay, hey, Stefan, just tell him what to do. He like didn't even want to coach me anymore. And Stefan whispered in my ear, he's like, wow, this guy's being such a jerk. And so like it's one of these incidents where whatever Coach Stefan's intention, whether genuine or, you know, something else, we give him a lot of credit, right? And so it soured my perception of Coach Shorty. And before I keep going, I'm going to try to explain what I think was going on in his head. One, he was super, super talented. I will give him all that credit. He was so talented. He was very good at Wushu. But I don't think he ever wanted to do it. He was kind of like me. I wanted to learn how to fight. I didn't want to dance. I think he was a lot like me. That's why initially, when we talked before, there was the power dynamic of him sort of coaching the class. We got along. I think we both were thinkers and we both kind of wanted more. So he was probably projecting a little. He wasn't happy just dancing. The second thing was, and I have to be careful not to give too many details because then it's going to dox who this Shorty guy is. He had a huge crush on one of the students in our school, and she didn't like him back. So there was that frustration. So there was that. And the third thing, remember I told you that the coach really pumped me up. Maybe there was a little bit of, let me see how this guy is. Like he felt threatened or he felt jealous or something, and the coach automatically liked me. And then it's like, oh, this guy doesn't even know our forms yet. Let's like, you know, not give him any slack. Maybe there's, so those 3 things together, right? Long story short, obviously, I'm not a fan of Coach Shorty, but give a lot of credit to Coach Stefan for standing up for me that day. So now that we described this precursor incident and why Coach Shorty and I just always seem to have a little bit of tension, we go a year later. At this point in the school's journey, the main coach, the head coach, is trying so hard to do demos everywhere. Every weekend there's like a demo. We perform, do our dances, etc. And it's gotten to that point where people are getting a little sick of it because obviously we all have school, we all have jobs, we all have other things. And so we can't just go do these things for free. I even tried to get SSL hours. For those of you not in the US, you can get what are called social service learning hours. So it's like volunteer experience. It makes you look good on college. So I tried to get those hours, but they weren't accepted because you're performing. You're not just helping out. You could say you're helping entertain, but that's not the same as like volunteering at a soup kitchen or something like that. But we tried. So it felt like, oh, we're like helping build the school, but what else? Like, what are we getting out of it? Besides some exposures, maybe we get to challenge our stage fright, etc. But what else are we getting out of it? So this was one of those performances where I don't think we had enough time to prepare. And the head coach tells Coach Shorty, you have to prepare a routine with all the older kids. And I just know Coach Shorty didn't want to be in charge. So he was already angry. And then he was giving a time pressure on top of that. So Coach Shorty was trying to come up with a routine. And you can tell, like, he just doesn't have any leadership qualities at all. He let the emotions get to him, and he was not a good communicator. So he also kept changing up the routine. So it was not going well that day during rehearsal. And Coach Shorty was just yelling all the time, getting so frustrated with all of us. You can tell, like, everyone was holding it in. And at this point, I was probably at the tail end of my journey with Wushu. So I was probably going to be the most vocal if Coach Shorty pushed it too far. So anyway, Coach Shorty kept just giving us ambiguous direction, getting mad at us for not understanding, etc. And on top of this, the routine, I don't know if this was the coach's idea or his idea, but it was dangerous. I have to give a big credit to Catherine Archer. I've never mentioned her before, but she was one of the most talented Wushu people I ever trained with. I want to give her credit here now. So Catherine Archer was supposed to stand on top of our arms, and she was supposed to either jump off and flip or just jump off, do something. And this was also a sword form on top of that. You think about how much can go wrong. Like, we're holding Catherine, and she's going to jump off. And I hadn't gone through puberty yet. I was little. So, like, I didn't even have the muscle mass. So like every time we held her up together, it was like the 5 of us or the 4 of us, it hurt. It's ridiculous. It wasn't working, and it just felt dangerous. It's like one of us could hurt our wrists, or Catherine could fall, or something. Like the sword could hit someone in the face. You don't know, right? So it's not working well. So he's getting frustrated, and everyone deep down is frustrated, but we're trying to be chill about it, not to add to the frustration. And Coach Shorty's yelling at us, getting so mad at us. And then so eventually we shelve that part of the routine, and then we work on the other part of the routine. And then at a certain point, I think, again, it isn't working out, and Coach Shorty's getting mad. So we take like a 1-minute break, and then Coach Shorty's like, okay, it's time to rehearse again. And he kind of turns to the other side of the people that are rehearsing and says, no weapons. But he doesn't like say it to us, so some of us don't hear it. So we, like 2 or 3 of us, grab our weapons, and he like turns around and sees that we didn't hear his instructions. So he yells at us. He's like, no weapons. And at this point, I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I didn't hear him the first time, or maybe he said it softly or something. I don't know, but like, I didn't hear him. So he yelling one more time, I just throw my broadsword on the ground. And for those of you who've ever practiced any sort of dance with weapons, dropping your weapon is inevitable. Sometimes you hit yourself, sometimes something's happened, right? So we're familiar with what it's like for the weapon to hit ourselves and hit the ground. But when I threw the broadsword, it made a sound that was not, it hit the ground. And immediately I was like, oh no. And I turned, and part of the broadsword hit another classmate, Derek, in the foot. And shout out Derek. Derek's such a chill dude. Never had issues with him. He was more surprised than anything. He's like, oh my God, I never seen Jerry get that angry before. And immediately I was like, oh man, I should not have gotten angry. I almost hurt someone. Immediately, Coach Shorty, like, instead of like thinking about what just happened, he comes up. He's like, yo, what's up? What's up? He like comes up to me after I throw my broadsword. I sort of pace a little bit like this. I'm sort of just walking like this, just taking a few steps and pacing. Because in my mind, I'm like, I gotta calm down. I gotta calm down. And Coach Shorty's coming over to me, but to his credit, he realizes I'm trying to calm down. He doesn't get in my face because in my mind, when he was coming over, going, yo, what's up? What's up? What's going on? If he got in my face, I probably would have started the biggest fight ever at the school. I would have popped him in the face. And then eventually I calmed down and then we continue. And eventually the head coach even comes down. She's like, yeah, what's going on? I'm like, nothing. Just leave me alone. She could tell that, okay, whatever was going on, it was upsetting people. So what was really funny was that eventually, we rehearsed maybe a few more times. The performance went fine. That's the thing. Like, there was no reason to stress out about it. The performance went completely fine. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it didn't help that Coach Shorty was getting so just angry and stressed out. Like, it really, there's a lot of good lessons to this, right? Leadership qualities, man. Even if you're stressed out as a leader, you don't want to project it onto the people below you. All you're going to do is cause more stress. All you're going to do is cause more drama. So the sun's getting in my face, as you guys can tell. To my credit, after the whole incident and after the whole weekend of the performance, next time I saw everyone, I just apologized. I was like, man, first I apologized to Derek. I was like, Derek, I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to throw the sword at you. He's like, it's okay. And then I even went up to Coach Shorty and I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. He's just in a bad mood. And he actually was trying to challenge me when he heard that. He's like, oh, you were in a bad mood, huh? And I was like, I remember thinking, I'm like, I apologize. I was being genuine. I don't care if he doesn't accept it or he thinks it wasn't genuine. Like, I did what I needed to do. He's just an immature guy who shouldn't be coaching, shouldn't be leading, shouldn't be seeing himself as an authority figure. Whether he wanted to be there or not, like, you got to have a level of maturity, right? And if you're going to be in a leadership role, it's just these things, it's not just martial arts schools. A lot of organizational structures have this, like, they thrust people into leadership roles who aren't ready or don't want it or both. And Coach Shorty was definitely both. I don't think he wanted to be a leader, and he also was not ready to be a leader. So that's the worst type, right? Certain people don't want to be a leader, but they're good leaders. Those people are pretty cool. And then certain people want to be a leader, but they're not good leaders. Those people are pretty cringe, right? And then there's people who don't want to be a leader and aren't good leaders. Like, you should never force them to be, unless you're like trying to get them to grow, but then you have to do it in a very smart, controlled way because you might cause a lot of drama. It wasn't Matthew Lee that caused me to search up Coach Shorty. It was actually years before that. But Matthew Lee, I was talking to him today, and it got me to be like, I'm going to tell this story. When I started doing jiu-jitsu, I was thinking about all the people that I knew from back in the day, in my Wushu days, and I searched up Coach Shorty, and I saw that he changed his hobby. Again, I'm not going to say what because it might dox him, but I was like, oh, I'm so glad he did. I had a feeling he was unhappy doing Wushu, and he looked so much happier. He looked so much more like himself when he was doing his new hobby. That's all I'm going to say. At the end of the day, these things build character, right? Like, think about the fact that I didn't have to apologize to people, but I did. I'm very proud of myself for doing that. And I could have escalated more. I could have fought Coach Shorty. I was telling Matthew Lee that when I was texting Matthew Lee some of the details about what I was planning to say, I'm like, man, I still kind of want to fight Coach Shorty because it's like, I was a little kid, and the first time I met him, he was causing drama with a little kid. He was already an adult. He was a college student. So, you could argue college students are not really adults, even though legally they are. But, you got to act more mature, right? Like, even the guy that Matthew Lee and I both know that I've mentioned that I won't name his name, like, he acted more mature than Coach Shorty. And, like, this guy is very likely on the spectrum. Like, I feel like he needs to get diagnosed. So if this guy is acting more mature a lot of times than Coach Shorty, like, what's going on with Coach Shorty's mind? Funny story about this guy too that Matthew Lee and I both know. So he was there the next week. He mentioned it to me. He's like, Jerry, man, remember when Coach Shorty came up to you like, oh, what's up? To his credit, as in to this person that Matthew Lee and I both know, he explained to me that Coach Shorty was under a lot of pressure. Like, the main coach was giving him a lot of pressure. So, I was like, okay, that's important. But from another angle, it's like this guy that Matthew Lee and I know, right? He always wanted to act like a mentor to people. And it's like, where were you when Jerry was about to get into a fight with Coach Shorty. Like, this is when you have to actually act like a mentor or a big brother, right? And that's one of my issues with this guy. Is like, whenever it was up to him to actually like show up, he wouldn't. And then like the times when it wasn't necessary or it wasn't needed for him to give an opinion or something he didn't understand, he would try to like mentor, right? Anyways, enough about this guy. The reason I mention him is that despite all of that, I still remember this guy way more positively because from a martial arts angle, there was rarely any cringe with this guy. But like with Coach Shorty, it was just cringe. It's always cringe. It's always cringe. So obviously it doesn't define my Kung Fu experience, my Wushu experience, my martial arts experience with this Coach Shorty character, right? But having to experience, like, think about losing your cool to the point where you throw a weapon. Thank goodness the weapon was just, you know, a flappy performance sword. It wasn't a real sword. And thank goodness Derek was wearing shoes, right? So, like, he didn't get hurt, but it's definitely shocking. It's like, oh my God, this sword just hit my shoe. So, like, to get that angry, obviously I took responsibility. I apologized. Part of taking responsibility was realizing I don't want to be here. So like eventually I quit Wushu, but the environment didn't help. Some of the people didn't help, right? Matthew Lee told me, I think it would feel really fun to kind of talk about this, feel a little cathartic, and it is. Like, I think I told this story pretty well. Let me think about if there's any details I forgot about. Let me see. Matthew's giving me any ideas. Oh, Xavier Santana's actually calling me. There's a lot of good lessons to this story. And I think the most important lesson is if you can't change yourself and you can't change the institution, then stop interacting if you can. I think about it. Imagine if I stayed around. I was so unhappy, but I stayed around training dance. Basically, Wushu, dance, food, right? Maybe I would have become like Coach Shorty. I would have been mean to younger kids. I would have been mean to beginners. I would have power tripped. Who knew, man? There's a reason why the gut in me felt so strong to get out of it, to get out of this Wushu training. And just, you have to stay genuine to yourself. What do you really want to do? Thank goodness I eventually started training in other stuff that's martial arts, not just dance. And if you look at the journey I'm on now, I'm exploring other things on top of that because you got to stay authentic to yourself. What are your other dreams? What are the other things you've always wanted to do? Do them. As a Christian, you could say, okay, just, you know, God has a path for you, so show the glory of God. But you don't have to think of it from a Christian way, right? Just stick to the path if it's benefiting you. And if it's not, think about what you can do. How do you make it benefit you? Or if you can't, maybe go on a different path. And it's encouragement for anyone. Maybe you wanted to train martial arts. Then go for it. Maybe you don't want to train anymore. You want to do something else. Or you want to find something else on top of this. Do it too. That's the ultimate message, man. Because what you don't want, we all know people like that. Bosses, teachers, maybe even peers who you can tell they don't enjoy what they're doing. And they're not nice. And you could just tell. They've convinced themselves that's just how the world is. But you could just tell if they could just make a little change about their circumstances, they're going to see the world differently. So, what change can you do? Obviously, I will always argue learning is important, right? But how can you learn in a better way? How can you learn in a better circumstance, a better environment? And I think that's a good way to end off this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And shout out everyone who subscribes to Fight Commentary Chats. I will tell more martial arts training stories, but I'll tell more China stories because I had some really fun stories from my time training in China. The cringe from America with Wushu, I think. Maybe I'm going to take a break because I almost got angry telling this story. Imagine if I keep going. Maybe I'm going to get angry and really angry. I don't want to start swearing right past those days. Okay, guys. Funny Kung Fu stories from China to come.